From the very beginning of time, God has never done anything by accident. The Creator who spoke the stars into being, who formed man from the dust of the earth, who set the boundaries of the oceans, that same God does not make random decisions about when a person is born. Your birth year was not a product of chance, nor was it a roll of some cosmic dice. It was asterisk ordained. Asterisk Psalm 139 declares that all the days of your life were written in God's book before one of them came to be. That includes the year, the precise calendar year in which you were born. That year was chosen for you before the foundations of the world were laid, and if God chose it, then it carries meaning. It carries asterisk weight. Asterisk it carries asterisk prophetic purpose. Asterisk too many people live as if their existence is just part of a long line of coincidences, a result of biology, not divinity. But listen to me, you are not here because of biology. You are here because of asterisk destiny. Asterisk God has appointed the times and the seasons, and he appointed asterisk yours. Asterisk he marked the generation you would be born into, the culture you would navigate, the spiritual battles you would face, and the message you would be responsible to carry. When you look at your birth year, you must understand that it is more than a number. It is a stamp of assignment. If you were born in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, or even the 2000s, each decade carried its own unique spiritual climate. Wars were fought not just on battlefields, but in hearts. Morality shifted, truth was challenged, technology accelerated, and in every decade a voice from heaven cried out, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" You were born into that moment to be part of the answer. History is not just a record of what happened, it is the unfolding of God's divine plan, and he places people within that plan with precision. Think of Moses, born during a time when male infants were being slaughtered in Egypt. Think of Esther, born for such a time as hers, positioned in a pagan palace to deliver her people. Think of John the Baptist, born to prepare the way of the Lord. None of them were accidents. None of them were misplaced. Neither are you. You may look around and wonder why you were born into a time of confusion, chaos, and compromise. But what if that's exactly why you were born, not to be swallowed by the darkness, but to shine in it? Not to echo the voices of your generation, but to confront them. Not to question your existence, but to step into your calling. God knew the exact year that would require asterisk your voice, asterisk asterisk your prayers, asterisk asterisk your courage, asterisk and asterisk your witness. Asterisk there is prophecy embedded in your presence on this earth. Your birth year is a signpost not of random occurrence, but of divine orchestration. God set you in this moment, not another, because this generation needed what he placed inside you. When you realize this truth, your past begins to make sense, your future gains direction, and your present demands attention. You cannot ignore the weight of this reality. You cannot dismiss the timing of your existence as irrelevant. You were born when you were for a reason that reaches beyond you. The year of your birth is not a backdrop. It is a banner, a declaration, a sign that God has summoned you for such a time as this. When you look at the year of your birth, most people see 4 numbers printed on a certificate, typed into a form, or remembered for an age milestone. But I want to tell you something deeper, something that goes beyond the surface. Every single digit in your birth year holds a mirror up to your generation. Each number echoes a spiritual reality about the world you were born into and the warfare you were called to confront. These digits are not empty, they are asterisk indicators. Asterisk they speak. The first digit often anchors you in a century, a wide frame of history marked by movements, ideologies, revivals, or rebellions. But it doesn't end there. The second digit further defines the era, narrowing your entry into a specific decade, each shaped by its own moral and spiritual tone. The last two digits bring it even closer, revealing the nearness of your generation's cry, your culture's values, your society's direction. Every number holds significance in the eyes of the one who sees the end from the beginning. If you were born in the 1900s, that first digit one is more than just the start of a number. It carries the mark of a century that saw humanity reach for greatness, often without God. The Industrial Revolution, 2 world wars, the rise of secular humanism, man built towers of pride higher than ever, but the foundations of truth began to crack beneath them. The one speaks of beginnings, but also of the beginning of rebellion on a global scale. The second digit, 9, runs like a thread through much of the last century. It reminds us of times of trouble, of warning, of urgency. The number 9 is often associated in Scripture with judgment and finality. In your generation, it could symbolize the nearing end of a system, the fading of values, the rise of lawlessness, the groaning of creation waiting for redemption. Many of you born in the 1990s carry this weight. The signs were flashing then, the Spirit was warning, and still the world rushed ahead. Or even the in your year is not arbitrary. The 8 may speak of new beginnings, and many born in the 1980s found themselves at the crossroads of analog and digital, a new world emerging, yet uncertain. The 5 may carry the meaning of grace, and perhaps your generation has seen more opportunities to hear the gospel than any before it, but also more opportunities to ignore it. The 0 at the start of the 2000s might suggest both emptiness and potential, a blank canvas that can be filled with truth or deception. What is the message of your generation's digits? It is that you were born into a specific time of shaking spiritually, morally, globally. You were born into a generation that would face deception dressed as enlightenment, entertainment that numbs the spirit, and convenience that replaces conviction. You were born into a culture that celebrates the self and silences the Savior, and yet you were still born not outside of God's will, but inside of His plan. Every digit testifies. Every number is a signpost pointing to the kind of world you entered and the kind of person you must become to shine in it. This is not numerology. This is divine awareness. These digits mark not just when you were born, but what asterisk you were born into. They reveal the environment your spirit was formed to endure, the battles your generation must fight, and the temptations you must be ready to resist. They expose the climate of your age, but they also confirm the calling on your life from Genesis to Revelation, from the garden to the cross, from the early church to this very generation. There is a pattern that repeats like a thunderous drumbeat through history. It is the cycle of sin and salvation. It is the tragic rhythm of man's rebellion and God's relentless mercy, and this pattern does not belong to ancient history alone. It belongs to every generation, including yours. The year of your birth, the digits that mark your entrance into this world, are part of a timeline soaked in this eternal conflict. Sin rises and grace rises higher. In every era, we see this same pattern unfold. It begins with asterisk blessing, asterisk God pours out favor, truth, provision. A people are raised up with the knowledge of the Lord. But soon the blessing becomes forgotten. Pride creeps in. Comfort becomes complacency. Truth is no longer clung to. It is questioned, then replaced. The people, once thankful, become entitled. They no longer cry out to God unless they are in need. They trade worship for entertainment, obedience for opinion, holiness for popularity. And the moment they loosen their grip on God, sin rushes in like a flood. Look at the Old Testament. The children of Israel were chosen, delivered, and provided for. God parted seas, dropped manna from heaven, and gave them victory over their enemies. But time and time again, They turned away. They worshipped idols, followed pagan customs, and did what was right in their own eyes. Then came judgment, famine, captivity, defeat. But even in judgment God sent prophets. Even in their rebellion God made a way for restoration. That is the pattern. Sin brings ruin, but God brings rescue. Fast forward to our modern times and you'll see that the cycle has not changed, only setting has. The idols have new names. They no longer sit on golden thrones, but they live in our pockets, on our screens, and in our hearts. Instead of Baal, we worship fame. Instead of Asherah poles, we bow to self-image. The gods of pleasure, pride, greed, and lust are alive and well, and many have welcomed them in as friends. But what comes after idolatry has never changed. Confusion, breakdown, division, despair, a generation with no anchor, drifting in a sea of relativism. Yet even now, God has not changed. He still sends messengers. He still raises up voices in the wilderness, crying, "Prepare the way of the Lord." He still stretches out his hand, offering mercy in the midst of madness. The cross still stands. The blood still speaks. The invitation to repentance is still open. The pattern of salvation is not just a theological concept, it is a lifeline being thrown to every generation drowning in its own rebellion. If you think your time is different, look again. If you believe your generation is too advanced for sin, look deeper. Human nature has not evolved past the need for redemption. No amount of progress, innovation, or knowledge has broken the cycle of sin. We may have smarter devices, faster systems, louder voices, but none of that can cleanse the soul. Only Jesus can. The pattern is clear. When man falls, God steps in. When the world grows dark, the light of the world shines brighter. Your generation may be rising in rebellion, but that is not new. What is new is the moment. What is fresh is the opportunity. And what is urgent is the decision. The same grace that rescued Noah, that forgave David, that restored Peter, that redeemed Paul, that grace is still alive today. The same Jesus who wept over Jerusalem still weeps for this generation. The same Spirit who hovered over the chaos in Genesis is hovering even now, waiting for hearts to open, for lives to turn, for a cry to rise from this generation once again. Before your first breath was drawn, before your name was ever spoken on this earth, the Almighty had already written the pages of your life. The exact year you were born was not a human arrangement, nor was it just a circumstance of your parents' timing or the result of biology. It was a divine appointment. Heaven marked your entry into this world with precision. You were not meant to arrive a decade earlier or later. You were born at the set time, in the set generation, to fulfill a specific role in the unfolding story of God. Ecclesiastes declares that there is a time for everything under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die. That means your birth was not just incidental, it was intentional. The God who hung the stars in the sky did not stumble or hesitate when he placed you into the century and season you now occupy. He saw the climate of the culture, he foresaw the political landscape, he knew the moral confusion that would define your age, and yet he chose you to be born in the midst of it, not to blend in but to stand out, not to be silent but to speak truth, not to escape but to engage. You may have grown up in a broken home or a turbulent environment. You may have questioned your value or wrestled with your identity, but none of that cancels the sovereignty of God over your birth. You were formed in the secret place, but destined for the public battleground of your generation. He does not send warriors into peacetime, he sends them into war. And if the times you live in seem dark, it is because God believed the light he placed within you was strong enough to shine there. Think of the prophets: Isaiah, born to speak in a rebellious time; Jeremiah, called from the womb to be a prophet to the nations; Daniel, raised in captivity yet uncompromised in holiness; Esther, brought into the kingdom for such a time as hers. Every one of them entered history at a time when their voice was needed most. God didn't wait until the world got better to send them. He sent them into the storm. That same God looked down through the corridors of time and chose your birth year as the right time to place you on this earth. You could have been Born in the 1700s in a century of empires, you could have come into the world in the 1800s during the rise of industry, but you weren't. You came when you did because your voice, your purpose, your obedience was needed in this generation. Heaven designed you for now, the talents within you, the burdens you carry, the questions that stir your spirit. They are not random. They are aligned with the era in which you were born. There are people who will never hear truth unless it comes from your lips. There are chains that will never be broken unless your hands move in faith. There are prayers that must be prayed by you, tears that must be shed by you, seeds that must be planted by you. Your presence here is not just a result of earthly planning, it is a heavenly strategy. You were born in a time when truth would be mocked, holiness would be dismissed, and righteousness would be rare. Yet you were not sent here to cower or conform. You were sent to confront the darkness with light, to walk in step with the Spirit, to live with purpose while others are chasing pleasure. The fingerprints of God are all over your arrival. The clock of heaven did not make a mistake. Your generation was assigned to you, not the other way around. God did not ask if the time was convenient, He decided it was necessary. You were born not merely to survive this season, but to reveal His glory within it this moment in time. This generation you live in, the year you were born into it, is not just part of your biography. It is a summons, it is a trumpet in the Spirit that calls you not to sleep through your season, but to awaken to your purpose. Too many walk through life unaware of the gravity of their timing, drifting like leaves on the wind of culture, unaware that the God who placed them here has an assignment burning in His heart for them. Your birth year is not a decoration, it is a declaration, and that declaration demands your awakening. You were not meant to be spiritually unconscious in an hour of crisis. You were not called to be entertained while souls perish, or to scroll endlessly while destinies decay. You were not born to be numb, you were born to be alert. The hour is late, the signs are clear, the nations are shaking, truth is under attack, holiness is mocked, and in the midst of it all, the Spirit of God is looking for those who will not drift into silence, who will not disappear into the crowd, who will not lose their fire while the world loses its way. Drifting is easy. It requires no direction, no resistance, no passion. You can drift with your eyes closed. You can drift even while attending church, even while quoting verses. But awaken that takes intentionality, that takes surrender, that takes a violent refusal to allow the spirit of this age to lull you into compromise. God is not looking for passive observers of this generation. He is looking for awakened hearts, men and women, young and old, who know they were born into this hour not by fate but by fire. The prophets didn't drift. They were awakened. The early church didn't drift. They were consumed with a holy urgency. Jesus didn't drift through His time on earth. Every step He took was aimed at the cross. Every moment was governed by eternity, and you are called to that same clarity, that same intensity. If you were born into a generation that exalts darkness, then you must awaken to shine the light. If you were born into a generation that forgets God, then you must awaken to remember Him, to reveal Him, to represent Him. Your birth year places you in a generation facing specific battles. Your generation is not fighting giants with swords and shields, it is battling confusion with truth, deception with discernment, and apathy with holy passion. The warfare is different, but the stakes are just as high. Souls hang in the balance. Families are under siege, purity is under fire, and in the midst of this, you were born not to drift into comfort, but to rise into calling. God never awakens people for entertainment. He awakens them for impact. He stirs them so they can stir others. He revives them so they can carry revival into dead places. If you felt restless, if you felt like there is more, it's because the Spirit of God is calling you to wake up. Shake off the distractions, strip off the spiritual lethargy, step into the identity heaven wrote over your life. You were not meant to be another face in the crowd. You were marked by the hand of God. Your birth year was your entrance, but your awakening is your response. The world does not need another opinion. It needs a voice that's been awakened by truth. Your birth year was not a mistake, it was an invitation. You can't sleep through a generation. That's crying out for answers. You can't drift through a culture that is sinking. You must rise, and rising begins with waking. Waking to who you are, waking to why you're here, waking to the fire of God that still burns and still cold.